Planning and Zoning Commission to order. The first order of business are the minutes dated October 21st, 2015. This time I'd ask if there are any corrections, additions to those minutes. I'd like to hear them now.
Mr. Chairman, I have a correction.
Mr. Elton.
It would be in respect to the fairgrounds. One of the conditions that Commissioner Jackson and I had proposed, number 2, a chain link fence. That's not at all correct. It was supposed to be a 5-wire barbed wire fence.
Thank you, Mr. Elton. Anybody here object to that correction? We have that in the minutes, the recorded minutes of the meeting and the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion?
Aye.
Approve the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes approved. The first order of business under our standard motions is a flume. Is to consider an amendment to the future land use map of the Dickinson Comprehensive Plan from residential to commercial. The site is approximately 10.85 acres and consists of portions of Block 9, 12, 13, and 15 of the Diamond Acres subdivision located in Section 34, Township 140 North, Range 96 West, Stark County. This time I'd ask the party presenting, please. I'd like to hear from you now.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Jeremy Wood with Northern Plains Engineering, and with me is the owner of the property, Dave Kitson. What's in front of you today is a request to amend the future land use map. We'd like the designation changed from residential to commercial. As far as the actual parcel itself, it's about a 15-acre parcel. Some of the zoning adjacent to the property it's zoned community commercial to the north. The easterly portion is a mix of either community commercial or R1 zoning. To the south is R2 zoning, and to the west is again a mix of either community commercial or R1 zoning. As far as when the development progresses a little bit further, we intend to work with city staff either on like a PUD or more strict setbacks, especially in the vicinity of the residential areas or the areas that are adjacent to residential. Either, like I said, increased setbacks, less intensive uses, probably in those areas that are adjacent to the residential, but especially probably the area to the southeast of this parcel is a subdivision is called North Ridgeway Addition. There are a few single-family residences there. I guess I would like to point out there kind of already is a buffer there with Fisher Park. It's Fisher Park itself is developed, but the Fisher Park actually, or there's a buffer there, I guess, that wraps around those homes to the north. So there's already a buffer, and it's approximately 70 feet. I'm not exactly sure, but around 70 feet of a buffer there already. We'd like to probably increase that in some ways, whether it's enhanced landscaping or increased setbacks like I mentioned before. That'll probably be discussed further on as we progress a little bit more. As far as the merits of the project or why this should be potentially rezoned to community commercial is, I think it really fits in well with what the city wants to do by developing the infill locations. It's not a matter of developing or running water and sewer to a far away property. It's within city limits, and something the city is promoting as these infill developments. The other thing is, if you look at the zoning map, there's really not a whole lot of community commercial property north of the interstate and east of Highway 22. We think that's a little bit underdeveloped for community commercial. One of the concerns may be the amount of traffic. It could be increased traffic when we convert the residential to community commercial, and we fully expect the majority of the traffic would ingress and egress from 21st Street. They probably won't be coming from the residential areas to the south or to the east or to the west for that matter. I would expect most of them would come from 21st Street to service the commercial property. Other than that, that's, I guess, all I was really going to mention to you guys is we are going to try to work with the city on developing, whether it's a PUD or something, to create a little bit of a buffer in the areas that are adjacent to the residential zoning.
Thank you, Mr.
Any
Wood.
questions that I can maybe answer?
For Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one clarification.
Hadley.
If we could just clarify, you stated that the parcel was 15 acres. And in our information, I think it's 10.86 or approximately 11. Is that correct or not?
You know, I guess I'm just looking at the boundary description of 15.36 acres.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was showing up as something else.
Yeah. I mean, we have the map that represents the area, obviously. But Stephen, do you have anything on that?
Steve Josephson, city planner. What we had received showed, from the applicant, showed the areas, it listed it as being 10.86 acres as the portion that they want to convert over, that they want to convert over to, from residential to commercial.
And to make sure that's clarified then, when we have the executive summary that it's blocks 9, 12, 13, and 15, does that mean it's all of those 4 blocks?
That's correct, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any problem with the request generally, and I know we're only looking at the flume today. When I look at the layout that I expect will be coming to us in a replat
Correct.
in this winter sometime, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay. I just would encourage you guys to look at that layout a little bit more. The transition of commercial to residential across the street is going to be difficult. It's going to be a tough transition. And I know I've heard conversation about buffers and all that, but I think there will be some ways to do this to transition that better from commercial to residential. And we don't have to talk about it a lot right now, but if the rest of you agree with me, I think it's fair we let these guys know that you should take a look at that before you come in with the replat.
Right.
So,
No, and we've talked a little bit with city staff and trying to transition that. But, we're open to obviously any suggestions you have, either at this meeting or with city staff.
we're not looking at the plat at this meeting.
No.
But I just think it needs something that needs some attention. As far as the flume designation, I have no problem.
Do you understand that clearly? Any other questions for Mr. Wood? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time I'd ask if there's anyone in the public who would like to make comment on this flume please feel free to come forward. We'd like to hear your opinion.
My name is Dylan Fettick, and I got this in the mail, and this map doesn't tell me a hill of beans.
Okay.
I apologize, but I can't determine anything out of it, and I don't know from conversation what exactly streets does this entail.
Okay. And you live at what's your?
Fourth
residence?
Avenue. So I'm guessing that this is the future on the east, which would be Fifth Avenue, but maybe you're calling it a different name.
You live on 4th Avenue?
Mm-hmm. South of 21.
South of 21 on 4th.
Mm-hmm. 4th Avenue East.
All right. Mr. Josephson will be glad to clarify that
This
for
is
you.
the area. Designation, so it goes down. This is already,
But what is this road? I don't know these roads.
that's 21st.
That's 21st? And
That's
where?
21st.
And what is this road? I mean, I don't get it.
Fourth Avenue East is just
This
on
is
the edge.
Fifth
This is
over here.
Fifth right here.
This is
So
Fifth.
your lot would be
Over here?
one of these lots,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so they're changing this along this way?
No, they're going down. This stays the same.
Oh,
It goes down 375 feet to the south, so it would be this area.
but it goes over to this, right?
It goes as far
Oh,
as this.
Fifth.
It goes as far as Fifth.
Well, I'm just came because I was very concerned when I saw on First Avenue East, the houses that back to the west, and now their backdoor neighbor is a high-rise hotel. And that's what I don't want to see. That's very unfair to those residents who thought that they had bought where they did. And I know Fifth Avenue and all of that to the east is not developed, but I would certainly hope not to encounter that situation. So that's why I came. I'm not a fan of slamming commercial next to residential like this man brought up. It's not a good mix. But that's just me. Okay.
Thank you for your comments. This time I'd ask if there's anyone else who would like to make comment. Please feel free to come.
I agree with the lady here. That map that was sent out, my neighbors had a lot of, I also live on 4th Avenue East. My name is Ross Bastian. Been really disappointed in the last 6 months. The map that I discussed with my neighbors, they were thinking it was all that stuff behind Justin Glass and all that. They thought that as people trying to sell that property and put it to commercial. And I talked to Mr. Josephson here the other night, and he sent me some more detailed maps, and I was able to juggle them back and forth and see which it is. And it still concerns me is if they open up like 4th Avenue dead ends, and you have to take a left over to First. Are you guys going to open that up to more traffic coming through there? Because that's going to, I mean, cars come by there plenty fast the way it is. And I had reported one car that actually came through our yard through the lot pretty fast, leaving black marks around the corners. Well, now you open that to a straight shot with all those kids playing up. I'm pretty concerned about that. Especially when you start opening up for more commercial businesses. The other thing that I'm kind of really disappointed about is that when they built that Able House right in front of or they're building it right now, we had talked to Mr. Joseph, or my wife had talked to Mr. Josephson over the phone, and he said that it fits right in with the building plan that they can do that. When we bought the property, shortly after we bought the property, we were told that Able owns that home and that you people will not allow them to build what they want to do. This summer in July, we had, my mother-in-law lives with us. She had 2 people from Able come into the house and showed her a map and said, well, we'd like you to meet your new neighbors. It's like, I feel we got this shoved down our throat. In front of us, we're going to have a big building, and I was expecting, if anything, to see houses. And like the lady here said, that was really unfair to let that hotel in front of those people. They're in 6 o'clock at night in the middle of summer, they're in the shade, you know. How are they gonna sell their property? I've got two of my neighbors right now next to that Able house that they're looking at putting theirs on the market right now. I expected them to be here, but they want to dump it before they lose more value in their property. So I guess I ask you guys to look at this a little bit more carefully and keep it more residential than commercial. And I would really appreciate a letter coming in there to tell us that we were going to have a big multi-unit living area right in front of our driveway. So I guess that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd ask if there's anyone else who'd like to make comment, please feel free to come forward. Come up to the podium.
I'm Ken Anderson. I live on 14th Street East. I just would like to know how this is going to affect my property on 14th Street. As it says, I'm with 300 feet, at least 300 feet away. I can't figure out where my house is on this map. You know, like it must be age or something. I can't read the writing very well.
Ken, you're on 14th Street?
Yep.
And which avenue are you closest to?
You know, probably 8th. The address is 801.
Okay.
Here,
Yeah, you're not showing up. You would be way back over right here. So
Okay. So it doesn't even affect me then?
No, you're.
Okay. And that's what I was just trying to figure out where I was at on this. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This time I'd ask if there's anyone else in the public who'd like to make comment.
Good morning. My name is Todd Dorval. My only concern when looking at the whole thing was where it's now residential would be changed to commercial, like directly adjacent to Fisher Park. One of the nicer parks in town. I'd really hate to see like a gas station or something in the backyard. But other than that, it's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorval. Is there anyone else who'd like to make comment? Please feel free to come forward. Oh, yes, please come up.
I forgot about this. The Saks Motor, because of the traffic, put up a blockade. They stopped what people were using as a road just south of 21st. It's just north of Saks Motor and north of Players. And Saks put up a concrete barrier so you cannot pull into Saks and go over and come down to the side street and go behind Players and get to our roads. They put that up there because of traffic and because of damage to their vehicles. I think when you bring more commercial, you're going to bring more traffic. That's a given. He even said that. But I don't think it's going to stay on 21st. That's my fear, because if it were staying on 21st, Saks wouldn't have put the investment in putting that blockade up and stopping traffic from easily traveling through. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. If there's anyone else in the public who'd like to make comment, please feel free to come up.
I'm Sandra Bastion, excuse me. I have a feeling none of this is us talking about is gonna stop anything. But we live on the corner of 4th and 17th. Can you guys think about maybe putting stop signs around there to slow down the traffic? I mean, because with 4th, with 17th coming up and 4th coming up the hill, people are not going to see each other. And I have a feeling we'll have a lot more wrecks on that corner because people do fly up 4th Avenue going south. So if we can look at more stop signs around there, I mean that's the easiest thing, since I know we won't stop anything else. If people could look at that and think about it.
Thank you for your comment. If there's anyone else in the public who'd like to make comment, please feel free to come to the podium. This time I'd ask Mr. Hadley Our planning director to give us a recommendation of the city on this, please.
Our recommendation is approval. I would defer to Stephen Josephson. It's his
Oh, I'm
project.
sorry.
So that's all right.
Mr. Josephson.
While he's going up there, Mr. Chairman, while he's going up there, I will add that we did visit with the applicant's representative yesterday and did make it very clear that we wanted him to note all of the concerns heard at this meeting and incorporate those into the application for the zone change, replat, possible planned unit development. So, in our project, I'm going to talk about it a little later, our process will be changing this next month, so it'll be a little different process for them to go through, which actually will help us get a better final answer when they come in front of you.
Thank you, Stan.
Yes,
Mr. Josephson.
Steve Josephson, City County Planner. Good morning, Commissioners. This is a request to change that area from residential to commercial on the future land use map, and that would allow the applicant to go ahead and rezone the property to something commercial in nature. The property immediately to the north of it, it's about 400 feet south of 21st, is already commercial on the future land use map and is zoned community commercial. This would extend this down about 374 feet. If this is approved, the applicant will come back in with a rezoning. They initially had requested community commercial, but after meeting with the applicant's representative yesterday, the staff made clear that through this process, there need to be some protections in here from the areas that are existing areas that have been developed as residential, and the rest of the subdivision which they intend to develop as residential. And those kinds of protections would be things such as limiting uses, possibly limiting hours of operation and height, enhanced buffering and screening, making certain that access onto, I believe it shows up as Sapphire Road, which is meant to serve residential traffic, that it's limited onto there. Also with a planned unit development that would show an internal circulation system and where the traffic would go, where the parking would be, where the buildings would be, and where the uses would be located. When we look at the future land use map amendment, one of the things we look at is how is this going to impact existing infrastructure, water and sewer, and we did ask our consultants to do that. And since that had already been evaluated, it's in the urban service area, and since it had already been evaluated for residential, the commercial uses would be as intense or less intense as what it was analyzed for, and they did not object. They did not object to the to the future land use map amendment. I know our engineering staff had some comments about future development in terms of access and water modeling and the type of water lines that would be needed there in sewer capacity. And also our fire department, again, had some thoughts on how future development, when they come through the zoning and planning process, would be handled in terms of having adequate access. So staff recommends approval of the request for the future land use map amendment, which at least gives the applicants an opportunity to come in and rezone and replat to something that's more commercial in nature. What's going to show up in that rezoning, we will work with, and the plat, we will work with them. We will work with them on that. But given the testimony that you've heard today, and given our discussions that we had with the applicant, we have proposed to them that they come forward with a planned unit development. We'll work with them. We'll work with them to bring something that'll help them and also help protect existing and future residential development in the area. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions at this time for Mr. Josephson? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments from?
One other thing I should add is that, just to let the people know who are here, is that any future things, the rezoning and the plat will also be coming forward for public hearing, and they'll be notified. They'll be notified of that also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Being none, we'll close the public portion of this hearing, and I'd ask for a motion.
Chairman,
Mr.
I'll
Jackson.
move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the future land use map amendment petition for residential and commercial as being compliant with the City of Dickinson comprehensive plan, also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Ballesteros. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
you know, I can't imagine that there aren't going to be some changes to this layout by the time we're finished here, which technically means we'd have to revise this flume again. I'm not sure how you get around that, but at a minimum, on these that are more routine from a procedural standpoint, we're making the developer go through additional steps here. And I would think at least that we could do the flume amendment and the rezoning at the same time. Like I say, I really think there has to be some layout changes on this thing. But that brings to mind the whole, our process here. And maybe we need to talk about this some other time when we've got more time. But I'm just questioning doing this flume stuff outside of a rezoning request and outside of the plating process. It's different if we're out in the ETZ where we're making a major change to a undeveloped piece of land. We're changing the land use. I just think there's got to be a better way with this kind of request.
It becomes very cumbersome because it almost implies that we're saying, yes, we're going to change the zoning. Otherwise, why would we do the flume?
I know our comprehensive plan says we should revise the flume every time we make a change. But does that mean if we extend certain zoning 1 or 2 lots, we have to change the flume for that? That doesn't make sense to me. So it might be something to talk about in the future. At any rate, I think we're going to be looking at this one again.
I think so too. And for the public to realize this motion that's been made and seconded is for to consider a future land use map and what could be done with that part that was considered in the future. And then that takes further steps before anything can really be done to that property. So this is just may put it in a position of being considered. And it does seem cumbersome that we're taking into consideration to consider something that we wouldn't do it unless we really were considering happening in some shape or form or some degree. But technically, it's just change in the flume is what we're approving. It's not approving anything else or any other approval of any other buildings, structures, businesses at all. Mr. Jackson's totally correct in that it's cumbersome. It seems like we're putting the cart ahead of the horse, or they should both be going at the same time.
Commissioners, if I can just make a comment, I think with a new process that we're going to have where we're going to ask the developers to come in and identify and settle all these issues first before they actually put their application in. I think that's going to identify several of these issues ahead of time so that they will be able to then they will be able to submit all of these things, all of these things together. We know it's going to be a little more work on the front end for for our applicants, but the payoff is going to be, as Commissioner Jackson was saying, it's going to be a little less cumbersome. That you can just all come in for your consideration at the same time. So we're looking forward to putting that into effect.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with Mr. Jackson. I don't have a problem with what we're doing today, but there are some things here that I certainly am not in favor of. But I'm guessing we're going to be able to take care of that when it comes to a rezone. So I just don't want people to think that by approving this that it's done just the way it is.
Mr. Bullock, any other discussion? Val Sparrow?
Well, I think what's probably going to happen here is these guys will be coming back to us with some changes in layout. So if we move a street 50 feet or 100 feet, do we have to again go back and change the flume? That doesn't make sense to me.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Hadley.
interject a little bit. Typically, a future land use map or a comprehensive plan is a guideline, and so we can interpret that. Not necessarily we process it on legal descriptions, that's correct, but it also gives us the ability to interpret that the intent of what we're hearing today included some alterations, if you will, of a plan that comes in that you'll finally review and approve too. I know that's not necessarily how it's probably been done. That's pretty standard across the country though, as far as ways of looking at a comprehensive plan or future land use map interpretations. They not necessarily are hard and fast, and it makes the engineers nervous when you say that, but that's the difference between the engineering and the planning side. We just look at it a little more loosely, if you will. It's more of a guideline for future development rather than a legal description. And so, you know, that's where today, while we're talking about this item, we really are looking at what the future, what we're saying is we will entertain some sort of a commercial type development with a subdivision that's attached to it, whether it be within a PUD boundary or not, down the road. And we're basically condoning the fact that we would like to see that move in that direction. So that's what we're doing today, really, and it's really not a hard and fast. I would prefer, with your concurrence and the commission's concurrence, to rather have a little looser interpretation of our hard line flume designations that we have right now. It does give us some ability to work with the development community. Also, I think meets the intent of where we're going with some of these developments, so we don't have to. And we can only consider future land use amendments 3 or 4 times a year.
4 times.
I think this is our 4th. Is this our 4th
This
time
would be the
year?
4th quarter. This would be the last.
I think this is our 4th time to consider it. So the staging and sequencing with the development community also is a little bit of a challenge because we can only do that so many times per year. So a little bit of a challenge there. So we try to organize those at the same time. And obviously we're to the end of the year, so next month I can tell you we're not going to have another one of those.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Thanks for your input. Thank you, Mr. Joe. Any other discussion? Being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recommended that the room be sent on as recommended amendment. Second item on our standard motions is a special use permit. It's to consider a request for a special use permit for consumer services for small engine repair located at 3731 114th Avenue Southwest. The site is zoned low-density residential and is approximately 0.76 acres. At this time, I'd ask the party presenting, please feel free to come forward.
Hi, my name's Jesse Kuntz. I'm looking at a special use permit for small engine repair out at 3731. The reasoning is there's a calling for it in town. I don't want to do it full-time. I don't have any interest in doing it full-time, but I have been doing it for about 12 to 15 years, so just trying to kind of lighten up what there is around town to do. That's my main objective with this, or my main prerogative with this. I got the neighbors signed petition on it. Nobody was against it. I've actually done work for the neighbors already, so they definitely aren't against it. I guess that's just what I'm presenting today.
Anyone have any questions or comments at this time for Mr. Kuntz?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to clarify, have Mr. Kuntz clarify. He did have some self-imposed conditions. Maybe, Jesse, you could just review your hours that you're working and numbers of items that you're going to work on.
Yeah, it'd be from roughly 6 to 9. Nothing ran after 7:30 at night. I work full-time, so it's not something that I'll be doing all day or all night. I'm gonna try and only take up to 5 items in at a time, because garage space, my wife would get mad if I take it all. So it's going to be just one part of the garage, so you guys should have a mock drawing of the requested area. No outside storage, everything's stored inside for safety reasons, obviously. And to keep the yard neat. I don't want anybody driving by and seeing that I'm doing anything there, because it doesn't need to look like a junkyard. I guess that's.
2 last clarifications, if you wouldn't mind, that you're going to pick up and drop off the
Yep, I'm going to pick up and drop off as much as I possibly can. I'm in my ads, I will not put my address. I don't want people dropping stuff off. That just gets to be a headache. There doesn't need to be any extra traffic on the road. It's already a racetrack the way it is. We don't, I mean, even to help the neighbors out, there's kids on the road. I don't need people with trailers coming up and down the road. So I will pick up and drop off as much as I possibly can. I'm not going to give out the address, like I said, to anybody. That's pretty much what I got.
The conditions of approval, the 7 conditions, do you have any questions on those, or are you clear on those? I believe that we visited on condition number 6, and I think if the commission looks at that one, it's probably a little different one. It's a little different one than Craig has seen too. Basically, if there was ever a time as the city grows and or we're going to have some sort of a connectivity with the lake in that area, basically what we're saying is Mr. Coons would not protest a sidewalk or a path program that would go by his residence. Obviously, that doesn't get us all the way through to there, but as we approve or as we hear items, you know, nowhere do I intend that he's going to be building that right now, but at the time that we have a plan for that in place, it's meant that he wouldn't reject that. So as part of this approval.
Was there any talk of signage at all for the business? Advertising?
No.
That you're there?
The paper and social media, pretty much. No outside signs on the house, on the building, nothing. Like I said, no way to know that, hey, that's the small engine shop, I'm gonna go drop my stuff off. I don't want that clutter on my buildings.
Mr. Chairman, I think condition number 3 actually clarifies that to where he wouldn't have any advertising for that site. So that would not allow him to put a sign up.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Coons? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I might ask if there is anyone in the public that would like to make comment. Please feel free to come forward. Glad to hear your comment. This time I'd ask Mr. Hadley to give us his recommendation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Given the fact that, you know, obviously Mr. Coons has done a good job at going to his neighbors, he's been working on this for a number of months. He's a very patient gentleman, very honest too, in saying that he needs to leave room for his wife in the garage. So you have to give him a little credit for that. He obviously has come up with a pretty good plan. I think he has some history of working on engines in his family and what have you, and has an interest in pursuing that. I feel that this is a good home occupation that obviously his neighbors do not have any problems with. And with the conditions of approval, I would definitely recommend approval of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. This time I ask if there's anyone else on the commission who would like to make comment.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. I have no problem with the request. But I'm curious, maybe Mr. Hadley or Ms. Goss can help us in the bottom of page 3 where we say that special use permit runs with the land. Is that what do all special use permits, all of them do?
Yep.
I thought we had other special use permits that you said when the land was sold, the SUP would expire.
You can put that condition in, but it typically, if you grant a special use permit or conditional use permit for that legal description, it goes with that legal description. It goes with that entitlement.
Condition you could.
But you could add that, yes. If you'd like to add that, you clearly are welcome to.
I don't know, it comes to mind, you know, I think Mr. Kuhn's probably going to do a good job at this, and you know, he's prepared the neighborhood and everything. It makes sense. I don't know, do you see a special value in having the special use permit if you ever wanted to sell your home?
There's no value in that
Yeah.
myself. I mean, unless somebody else is going to do the same thing, 'cause that special use permit is kind of just for that, isn't it?
Yes, it would just
mean-
be for what this proposed use.
Yeah, so chances of somebody else actually coming in and doing the exact same thing at that residence are slim to
Pretty
none.
remote, and
So-
you know, it appears we can rely on Mr. Kuhn's to do this right. I don't know, just what that.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. This time we'll close public portion of this hearing, and I'd ask for a motion.
Chairman?
Mr. Kovac?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had a question. I know in the past that we had seen people, I think that whenever they were zoned maybe commercial, that they had a difficult time refinancing their property. If you were ever able to do that or needed to do that, would this SUP prevent them from doing that, the refinancing, or that's not?
No, if a lender, or we've got some experience here, they go on what the allowed uses are and what the actual zoning is of the property. So this is actually a condoned residential use that we're approving to be utilized on that site. So yeah, it doesn't change the zoning at all. So it wouldn't change his taxes that way as far as zoning.
Or it wouldn't make it unnecessarily difficult if you were to refinance the house?
No, I don't believe so. I'm not a lender, but I'll let the.
Thank you, sorry about that.
All right.
Cool.
I move the Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the Jesse Kuhn special use permit petition, subject to the conditions listed above, as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare, along with the conditions that were listed.
I'll second that.
Second. And Mr. Elkin, is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recommend approval. Thank you very much, Mr. Kuhn. Is there anything else anybody else would wish to bring before the commission this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have one short thing.
Mr. Hadley?
I'm passing down, as you've heard, Stephen alluded to it earlier, we've talked about it for a number of months. Our process this next month will be changing, and this I hope to have up on the website this week. It will definitely be handed out to all of our applicants, and we've been warning all of them that it's coming. Actually, we haven't had any negative comments from the development community whatsoever on the process. And what this is a development checklist. As someone comes in, let's say it's Mr. Coons or the folks in Diamond Acres, before they would sit down with us, we would check off everyone on this list that they need to go make a presentation to, visit with, do whatever they need to do to get their concurrence. Now that would include fire, park and rec, whatever. Anybody that would be associated with that type of development. A completed application from now on would be Friday at 12 noon, the first Friday of the month, for the next month's meeting. Which if you know our process right now, it not necessarily has been that. It has been you apply, and it's taken a couple months, and we actually go out and try to solicit and get this information back during our process, during the time that we advertise. My concern with that is we not necessarily always get all of the comments, and don't feel that it does justice to all the agencies that are involved. The one thing, it will put a little pressure, and I've mentioned that to all the agencies. People are going to come in on Monday with an application and say, hey, the deadline's Friday, we need this. If they don't have the ability to give them an answer by then, we're kind of out of that. When that application comes in complete, we will definitely move them forward. And then it will make it much easier to address some of the issues that Mr. Jackson has been alluding to for a number of months, because it allows everyone to look at it, and then we actually just look at it from the standpoint of a finished product, the public comment, anything that comes up during that discussion. Everyone else should have a final approval in the packet before they even start the review on our side, whether it be the engineering side or the planning side of this. So it's a tried, true, tested program that I've used elsewhere in a much more hectic, out of control environment, and it actually brought a little bit of organization and semblance of organization to it. So I think it will really help, and I think it will help actually the agencies feel like they're a little more engaged in our process, and because we won't move forward. We're waiting for the weed person to contact us back on a project in the ETZ, and we don't have it, they won't be moving forward. Now that isn't going to be popular for the owners, but really that burden falls back on whoever their consultants are that are doing that work. It's going to be very clear what they need.
And Mr. Hadley, will this in any way make it very clear to the public where they're at? Because this morning we had the majority of the people from the public this morning weren't sure where they lived in relationship to a proposal. And that's kind of disconcerting that people don't even know exactly where they are in proportion to some site that's in so many feet away, or yards away, or blocks away, or what street they're on.
It's 300 feet in the map. I guess they probably don't necessarily know. What we could do is put some icons of what they probably would recognize for that. But you know, I played email tag with a few of those people, and they really didn't even let me know what application they were actually interested in getting information for. So I would say, I guess the best answer is that they actually come in and visit with staff and make sure. I don't know that we can verify all the information on the map. If someone gets a letter in the mail, I would suggest they call if they're confused. So we will try.
Well,
we will try to make those a little more clear. But
Walt, is this for plats?
It's for everything. For everything we process.
Okay, and what does this mean? City of Dickinson departments, are they supposed to submit to each of these, or why are there?
It depends on the project. You know, let's just say Diamond Acres. We would go through, check off city engineer. We'd go down the list of everybody that they would need to get some sort of an approval from or a contact for. So you know, in that particular case, the city attorney might be on that checked off for a draft development agreement. So she actually has one in her hand.
So this means the developer is supposed to bring something to Ms. Goss, let's say?
Yep. They can email a draft development agreement to Ms. Goss, and she can review it. What will require, if she's checked off on there, is an email response, at least at the minimum, from her that it says that this is a good preliminary base of where we're going. So when they come in, when we advertise it, right now when we advertise an item, it not necessarily is in a final form. And I don't believe we're doing justice to you or the public or ourselves, because it does make it a little difficult to review in that interim time. Usually we do a pretty good job of getting them to where they're final when they come at the meeting, but what if we don't? And what if there's issues that come up? And I think I've even been here for meetings where we've had the fire chief, let's say, will come in and say, well, I didn't really understand that, and I kind of have a concern with this.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'm saying is I don't think I would know that I'm supposed to bring something to each of these, if I were an applicant.
Right. No, it's going to be very clear. The process is going to be, they're going to meet with us. So every person that's coming in for an application is going to come in and meet with either Stephen or myself. We're going to sit down with them, check off who they need to go contact, and make it very clear. Hand them a copy of this and say, come back when you have all of these addressed.
Thank you. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.